Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another fireside chat here as part of our 2024 Net Zero Carbon Summit. We're super excited to be sitting down with another great guest. I'm Kaylee Nix, and we are here with AJ Savas, who is here as a driver from Oatly. Now, you might recognize Oatly from their marketing campaigns of being an amazing plant-based milk alternative in the space. But we're here today not to talk about the goodies that are on the grocery store shelves, but to talk to somebody who helps deliver them there. AJ, thank you so much for joining us as part of the Net Zero Carbon Summit.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So, we're going to start off talking a little bit about your experience. You are a professional driver for Oatly, and it's a little different than it is to be a normal driver. But before we get there, talk to me about how you started driving and what your experience as a truck driver has been like so far.
So I started driving back in 2020. I was over the road for about a year and a half, learned the ins and outs of everything in a diesel truck, and then came on with Oatly, and I've been there for about 2 years now.
It seems like there were a lot of people who decided to jump into the industry in 2020 because, of course, the market was great. Profits were rolling in, and now we've seen the market turn and seen people have to get creative with their jobs and where they're going. When you talk about joining the team at Oatly, what made you make that switch? And then how has your work life changed since going from driving a diesel truck into now their electric vehicle?
So what originally brought me over to Oatly was, I was looking for something that could be a long-term career and something that long-term is good for my family and just the planet in general. I really love that Oatly stands for sustainability and all of that they do, not even just in the trucks, but everything in the backworks is also all about sustainability. Um, and I just want to contribute to that.
Yeah, we know that the truck driver lifestyle can often be very, very difficult, especially if you are an over the road driver, right? You're talking long hours on the road, you're talking being away from your family for a very extended period of time. How has that changed now since joining the Oatly team? You're talking about bringing sustainability into the green space, of course, but in your personal life, how has that helped kind of foster sustainability with you and your family?
Yeah, so it did bring me off over the road. So I get to be home every day with my family, which is amazing. Not a lot of truckers get that opportunity. Um, so now I work about 15 days out of the month and I get the rest of the time off and I get to spend that with my kids and my wife. And that's really just changed the game entirely because I was over the road and I was gone for 8 to 10 weeks at a time. So that was really hard for everybody.
Yeah, I feel like that's a very underrated point when we talk about sustainability is investing in your human capital and making sure that your hiring practices and the way that you take care of your people is also sustainable and helps contribute to the goals of a company overall. And we can go ahead and start talking a little bit about the equipment because as I mentioned at the start, that's kind of where Oatly sits uniquely in the space right now. There's a lot of conversation both in the industry and in our event here today about alternative fuels and seeing fleets switch over to different systems. Maybe that's a more sustainable fuel like biodiesel or things like that. But in this case, Oatly has now made the switch to some electric trucks, and you are one of their drivers. Can you talk a little bit about the vehicle that you specifically drive and how it's different than what you were in before?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do run an electric semi. I work 12-hour shifts and it's very impressive what it can do. It's really nice because it's quiet and our support team with Iride has been amazing. They have helped out any step of the way. They came and trained us and showed us everything that's a little bit different. It was kind of hard to get used to at first going straight from a diesel into an electric because you're going from this really loud diesel that pulls and jerks in different directions to this really smooth and quiet truck that like even when you turn it on I didn't even know it was on. It's that quiet. Like, so adjusting there was a little different, but once you're with it and you've driven for a while, it's really nice. And like I said, it's very smooth and easy to get behind.
So the partnership with Einride is really interesting, and I don't know if you can dive any deeper into it about maybe the number of trucks that you guys have in the fleet or what your plans are for expansion with your fleet there. Any insight on kind of how that partnership has developed and is in the works or has room for more growth?
I can talk a little bit about it. So right now, we have 3 trucks. We run 24/7. So there's always a driver on site driving an electric truck. With Iride, they have come up, and if we have any maintenance issues or our yearly like PMs and all that stuff, they take care of it for us, which is really nice. I don't even have to change tires or nothing, which is really awesome. They've been so great with that. I can call one of their representatives any hour of the day. Um, I don't know as far as expansion goes. I'm not too involved with that personally, but I hope we continue to expand. We might be getting new trucks at some point from them, which would be awesome. Um, that's about all I know as far as Einride goes with our contracts.
I love it. And we love to see kind of the partnership that goes hand in hand with startup companies or companies that began as startups like Einride and really have this kind of small footprint in the industry, but are working to make a big difference with a company that has shared values like Oatly does. When it comes to the actual use case of the truck, we know that electric vehicles are really good for kind of those short hauls, maybe your like last to mid mile if you are going out and then returning to the same place over and over and over again. Is that what you guys are doing, is truly on that like middle to last mile side with these trucks? And are you doing like a run from a warehouse to a final drop off site and back?
Essentially, yeah. So we have a few different routes that we do. Mainly we're going from our warehouse to another warehouse back and forth all day. But there is the occasional run down to like Salt Lake, and the trucks do just fine on it. They make it there and back, and then I can continue and work the rest of my 12-hour shift. I haven't had any issues with it dying on me or anything like that. Like it's been lasting the whole 12 hours. I'd say I could probably get roughly like 150 to 180 miles on it a day.
That's pretty great, especially when you consider some of those use cases and how, we're still continuing to stress test the EVs and really kind of almost proof of concept them. I think that this is a really great space to do that. Along that thread, for drivers who have been in the industry for a while, they can tend to be a little bit wary about what the switch to EVs can look like. And there's a lot of misconception that goes on in the industry about what it's going to take to transition to an electric vehicle or even to an alternative fuel vehicle from a fully diesel truck. Can you hit on maybe any misconceptions that you had before you made this transition and started experiencing it for yourself? And if any of them have been true or if they've been a little bit misguided?
Yeah, for sure. So I think there is a lot of hesitance when it comes to switching over. And I think it was kind of the same hesitance from switching from manual to automatic trucks. Um, but I think a lot of the misconceptions are like they're not going to haul as much, they won't go as far, they're not going to last long term, and like they can't drive in winter. But I drive in Utah. We get some crazy snows out here, and I'd rather be in the electric truck driving it than at a diesel any day. It rides really smooth, and it can pull its weight. Like I haul oat milk, so my loads are always maxed out weight wise, and it has no problems. You wouldn't even know you were pulling a load if you didn't see the trailer behind you. And then, as far as the battery lasting, I think right now it is going to be mostly for local runs, but it's the local guys that use a lot of fuel, really, because you're going in and out of cities. And I think it can be really beneficial if local drivers changed over to the electric trucks as we work to get longer hauls out of them.
Has there been anything with your experience over these last 2 years that has been maybe surprising to you about what it takes to drive an EV, or maybe even some of the reception that you guys get when you talk about, hey, you have this program and it's only 3 trucks right now, but it's got the ability to expand into more?
Yeah, I mean, I was nervous to get into it, especially going into the winter. I wasn't sure how it was going to handle the different weather and the different weights of what we're hauling, but it's really been seamless. I was really surprised how well it does handle in the snow and in rain and other weather that we experience out here. I know wind is a big issue with trucks in general, and it really hasn't been an issue with the electric trucks. It's just been easier to drive them, because you're not dealing with all the pulling that a diesel does. It's got the torque and it just handles a lot better. I was surprised that it's a lot easier to hook and unhook trailers. It's just a lot more smooth and steady instead of jerking around and throwing stuff around the cabin.
Well, we love to see it, and we love to see that there is this partnership going on, and companies like Oatly continuing to take steps to be more sustainable as they continue to progress. For people who maybe want to reach out to you guys, if they want to see any potential advice from a real life driver, or they want to maybe even get linked up with you guys at Oatly and see what kind of driving opportunities are out there for them, where can people go to do that?
I believe they could just go to Oatly.com. We've got a careers section for jobs, and there is like a FAQ page that they can go to and reach out as well. And our PR team gets back to people pretty well.
Awesome, AJ. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this Net Zero Carbon Summit Fireside Chat. We appreciate it so, so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you guys for sticking around through some of these fireside chats. Make sure that you are staying active with us in our live chat on live.freightwaves.com. And if you miss any of today's sessions, you can find them on YouTube following the event. We'll be right back with more in just a few minutes.